I built a room and I locked it all in there. And I threw away the key. And when you can't find the key to open up something and clean it out, it rots and things start dying inside you. You know, it took me until 2014 to finally find that key, finally find the strength to unlock that door and take a look at all that trauma.
My friend,
Hi.
my good friend,
Yes.
Ty Herndon, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's been a minute.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
It looks a little bit different than it did.
You've grown.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, not sitting in the car doing this.
Where was it? I feel like it was pandemic. Was it pandemic?
It was. Yeah.
Man.
It was. And we had a lot to talk about then. We have a lot to talk about now, but a different conversation. It's just, this is more, wow, this is growth. And this is moving forward, and
it is,
and moving through traumas, moving through a few disasters, and you're coming out on the other side. You know,
and it's
hugging
so cool
a pillow and talking to a friend.
Yes, and man, it is so cool to be able to experience. We've got to walk through different parts of life, advocacy, music, triumphs, tragedy.
Woo, hallelujah!
I mean,
preach.
You know. And we're still standing, well,
we are
sitting.
Still standing. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
We're gonna Congratulations. Go. I mean, I love that the show has taken off, and I love the guests you've been having. I love the truth and the honesty and just the pureness of what people are willing to talk about today, because the place we're in the world today, that's what we really have to have, you know, is moving forward fearlessly with our own stories. And so
absolutely.
I just have a lot of gratitude.
Thank you. And I do too. I want to shout out, because this is the first day that we're recording since we got this news yesterday. We've been nominated a couple times for some different awards, and which is amazing. We're now a 9-time award-winning show. It was a really exciting day yesterday to hear the tellies. We got nine awards. I'm blown away. Not from a prideful standpoint or from ego.
Who are you talking to? Yes.
I have to say this.
Gifts.
200 stories, 200 individuals have come on our show.
Yeah.
And gotten vulnerable and shared their truth, their storm, how they overcame, and the hope for other people.
See, we're going to jump right into getting emotional. That is what this is all about. You know, you can't move forward if you're not in a place where you're willing to be emotional, put it on the table, dissect it, learn from it. And when you learn from it and you're talking about it, so many other hearts are changing. And so if I know you like I think I know you, that's why you started this. And I believe that you've changed a lot of hearts and minds out there with these conversations. And you have a lot to be proud of. I'm proud of you. And where's the tissues?
I know. I was just about to say, if there was ever somebody that needed the tissue box, if we get it on hand for you.
Yeah.
But okay, so I'm going to take it lighthearted real quick before we go deep. I mean, we already went deep. So, all right. So we're going to ease in with a real serious question. If someone's never been to a Ty Herndon concert before, what very specific moment in your set list should they emotionally prepare for? Like, are we throwing glitter, crying, or both?
Whew. If you've been to my show, you know, I put a lot of love and humor into the show because some of the songs are so deep, and especially some of the things we've written. But I tell a story. We sit down on the acoustic stools, you know, just break it all down, some beautiful lighting. And I go to a place that I'm going to tell you about my journey and what song. This is the song I'm talking about. Lies I Told Myself. I'm Glad I Didn't Believe. It was on an album that took me to the Grammys for the first time, and there's some cute stories within that. But it was really the pivotal moment for me that I get to talk about coming out. And how I was screaming to come out. And when I say come out, you know, I've never been a guy that really likes labels. So coming out for me was just like, okay, you're about to read a new chapter about me. And I hope that doesn't change your mind about my music and the man that I am. You're just going to know more. You're going to come into, I'm welcoming you into my home, into a room you haven't seen the pictures on the wall here. And I hope that you will come in and see these pictures and see all the love and all the support and everything that myself, my people, my family that we built. And I'm proud of this. And so I talk about that. I finally get to talk about that in the show. And I said, I don't care what walk of life you come from. I said, but music is a healer. Listen to this song about a little fellow that didn't think he'd ever get anywhere because he was so afraid he could never be in country music. They would never accept me. I threw my cards on the table. I knew that's what I had to be. And little did I know that was not a winning hand. And to me, it looked like it was. And so I get to tell that story, and I get to talk about my journey to this beautiful song. It talks about lies I told myself I'm glad I didn't believe, because if I would have believed them really in my heart, I wouldn't be here today. And it's been a journey. It's not been easy, but there have been some mountains that have been so pivotal and beautiful, and to get to stand on those mountains, especially in the last 14 years of my life, have changed me.
Yeah.
They've not only changed me, they've changed my family. They've changed people around me. And we'll get into husband land in a little bit. But
well, dang, Ty, I thought I was definitely opting for the throwing glitter category. No, throwing glitter while crying. No.
I don't have any glitter while crying,
kidding.
but I have hugged a few people and walked on stage and got glitter all over me. But that's about it. I'm just a cowboy man. I'm just a girl who can't say no. Oh, here we go, y'all.
It's going to be, buckle up. This is going to be right. I want to ask you, is there, because I know that there are a lot, but is there a specific lie you told yourself that you're glad you didn't believe that is the pinnacle you're thinking of right now?
Ooh, it's a big old lie that I could not be a successful country boy, man, artist in country music. If anybody knew my secret, I would be taken out and strung up in the barn. I did not believe that it was possible unless I built an altered personality that an alternate personality that I could step into, that no one would ever think that guy was gay. And that's a horrible pair of boots.
I'm going to go deeper here, though, because I think this is interesting because we're talking about internalized homophobia here.
Yeah.
And so many of us operate or develop that and don't have the insight and awareness during the time, hindsight being 20/20. It's easier to. Did you have the foresight to know that that's what you were doing, or was it one of those things that was happening automatically and you were vacillating between those two versions of Ty?
I had no idea what I was doing, man. I just knew that, with my hands raised in church, in that little Pentecostal church in Butler, Alabama, Gilberttown, Alabama, that I ran back and forth with, from my grandma to my aunt's church, I knew that God was going to take that away. There was just something that was a hiccup in my life, and I didn't want it there. I never wanted to be gay. I just wanted to be just, like my cousins. I wanted to be like my uncles. I just wanted to be a guy that got married, had some kids, and was on a tour bus and singing songs from gospel music to country music. Yeah, so that was...
And you were doing that.
I was.
The fear of what you had gotten in your mission that you were fulfilling, that you believed was your calling.
Yeah.
Losing that.
I built a room and I locked it all in there, and I threw away the key. And when you can't find the key to open up something and clean it out, what happens? It rots and things start dying inside you. And it took me until 2014 to finally find that key, finally find the strength to unlock that door and take a look at all that trauma, because the trauma was alive and well. The room that I built was falling down.
Did you believe you were gay? Or did you think, was there a different story you told yourself?
I think any, 14, 15, 6-year-old kid in that, in the 60s, 70s, there wasn't a lot of information.
No. I didn't.
None.
Ty, I didn't believe I was gay until I got sober at 24 and had to do a year worth. I was a year into getting sober, doing therapy and what have you, before I could even admit it to myself. So this is 2011, not the, so I can only imagine. I don't know that it matters what decade or year we're talking about.
You're talking to a guy that's been engaged so many times that my mom took me for a cup of coffee and said, "Look, son, don't buy any more engagement rings. You're gay." You know, my own mother
She did.
She came out for me. Yes, and so
when do you remember when that was like?
Sure, it was probably, I was working at Opryland. I graduated in 1980, so about 1985, 86, close to 1990. I had been engaged 3 times. I'd been married once, you know, to cover up the fact that I was gay. She knew that I was. If I ever write a memoir,
man,
hint, hint. There's some great stories in there. I have this awesome mom,
sweet Peggy,
Mama Peggy. Yes, and so she just finally said, "Son, you're gonna have to find a way to deal with this because," she goes, "what you're gonna build here is gonna blow up in your face," and Mom was right, you know, and I didn't listen. I just kept. I was on a locomotive that was headed one way, and that was the only way I could see. It was tunnel vision. I was trying to get to Nashville. This is what I wanted. This is the only way to do it, and it just didn't happen. It didn't happen for a long time. I mean, if I want to go all the way back, in 1983, I was on Star Search, and
you were?
Yes, man. I went all the way to the end. I was Sam Harris, and I went up head to head on the finals. And Sam is still a friend, a big Broadway star now, and Tony-winning Broadway star. And we were the original American Idol. LeAnn Rimes, Rosie O'Donnell. I mean, so many people were on Star Search.
I had no idea that you were on Star Search. How did I not know this? That's amazing. I've got to see this footage.
I was all hair and a body of sticks.
Did you have long hair?
No, just poofy. I had the original Vince Gill hair. Wow. Yeah, so I did really great on that show, and I came back to Nashville, couldn't get a record deal, and I moved to Texas because a buddy of mine called and said, "Hey man, these guys, Tracy Lawrence, Tracy Bird, Little Texas, they're all just raking in the cash out here. You need to put a band together and come out to Texas." So I did. We were called...
What part?
Dallas. Okay. I moved to Dallas. My first...
What years?
This was probably 89 to 95.
Oh, okay. I was born there, and we moved here right when you moved to Dallas. So
Isn't that crazy?
I was like, wait, were you there at the same time? Anyway, but
yeah, and I won Texas Entertainer of the Year. Eventually, it got me my record deal and brought me to Nashville, and the rest is trauma history.
Would you trade any of it, though? I mean,
what an incredible question. I probably would tear down a few rooms that would have saved my life, but if I'm going to answer that question honestly with where I'm at today, no. My story is everything to me now. I've got this beautiful life. I'm married, have a house payment and a car payment, insurance, and a beautiful, loving, supporting husband and his family. I mean, I would never in a million years dreamed that I would be sitting in this room that I thought was impossible to be in. And I don't know if would I land here and be happy? I'm happy today. So
exactly.
It'd be hard to say I would change anything.
Yeah.
But my hair color. It's getting gray.
So that was question number 1. Well, your hair still looks great, Ty.
Thank you. I still got it, some of it.
Man, okay. Before we go deep, I want to know about this because I'm really excited. A little bird told me that you've got a single coming out later this week with one of my favorite
I know it is.
ladies.
Yes, Miss LeAnn Rimes, who I've known since maybe 1994. We were on tour together. She was probably maybe 14, 15.
When she did Blue and yeah.
Yes, and all of a sudden the arenas were filling up, and I knew it wasn't me. And she was opening for me, and she came to me with her dad, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna have to switch." And I said, "It's really not a problem at all." So we switched because I knew who was putting butts in seats, and We finished out, a really wonderful tour, and LeAnn would come out and sing.
Oh, you switched mid-tour. It wasn't
Mid-tour.
like,
No.
the next tour.
It was mid-tour, absolutely. But LeAnn never made a difference. She came out during my set and would sing with me. And what happened was so magical. Then when I started doing this album that's celebrating 30 years of hits, What Mattered Most was my first number one, and nobody else would I even imagine, and I told her this, to come and recreate this single and sing it with me. We recreated it one time with the LGBTQ version, and we had a number one iTunes single with that. So to do it again, a third time, it had to be something incredibly special. So this has a story, because this part that she's singing on this today was close to what she would come out and do with me all those years ago, but recreated in such a special way. She called me. She said, Herndon, that song's a workout. And I said, yeah, it's the way we produced it is it is so much heart, and it was the original. But today, that song still stand up straight, and then to put two voices that have really been friends for this long and have a story behind it. I can't wait for everybody to hear it. It's when she enters on verse number 2, you know who the hell it is right off the bat.
I don't know.
She needs no introduction.
Yeah, no, she's one of those voices that you recognize no matter what.
And with everyone there's a whole album duets coming with the hits, and so far everyone that has been a part of this has blown me away. So let's talk about blessings and
can we wait? Do we get to know who all is on it, or is that?
I think we could say a few people. Absolutely.
Okay.
Ashley McBride sings "A Man Holding On to a Woman Letting Go," and man, I just heard it for the first time yesterday, and my husband and I sat there, and Alex is pretty cool. He's a cool dude, He just big tears running down his face. He said, "That's magnificent," and she poured her heart and soul into it. And you could tell she loved the song. Then Michael Ray came in to do "Hands of a Working Man," which was his dad's favorite song. So all these little nuances, and that's as far as I go. But there's some pretty incredible guests, and they've blown me away with even saying yes, they would do it.
Yeah.
So my gratitude tank is pretty full.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Follow-up question.
Okay.
On the note of LeAnn, I would like to know, because what mattered most is the song, right?
Yeah.
When you originally sang it, what mattered most? And today, is that answer different?
Oh, Lord, yes. Absolutely. How could it not be? I think we're actually talking about doing I had a podcast a couple of years.
Yeah.
And we're kind of redoing that now to have guests on to talk about what matters most in their lives, which, it's cheesy but true. But for me, I'm, by the grace of Almighty, powerful God, seeing more dreams come true right now that I never thought would come back around. I won't say I'd given up on, but they'd been put so far up on a shelf that I didn't think I would, see 3,000 butts and seats again. I didn't think I'd see being out on tour and having people show up and loving my story and look out there and see all these amazing faces, and then do a meet and greet where I've got everywhere from the LGBTQ family to just good old boys. It's like, dude, I just love your music, man. I brought my wife tonight because that was the song that was in our wedding. Your life's a miracle. I rarely miss meet and greets because I love hearing what people have to say, because I'm gonna grow from it. And it's I cry a lot, especially when we had Jacob out after the trauma that I went through in 2020, and hearing people tell me their stories and talking about that during the show, and walking through depression, suicide attempt. Just people that are showing up and hearing songs like "God or the Gun." That I only will do that song live now if I feel it in my spirit, in my soul, that it needs to be sung tonight, because it's a very special song, and the temperature has to be right for it, and I feel it when it is, and it has not failed me once that somebody out there really needed to hear that song.
Well, your music speaks to your music is written from and speaks to the heart, and I think one of the blessings of doing the work that you've done is being in a place now where you actually can tune in and be connected with your gut.
Yeah.
And right, like it doesn't have to
so annoying.
You don't have to go from like what was scripted. You can be like, I'm going off script because
my poor band, their set list is never the same, because they follow me so great because they know my heart. And it's back to the question. I just, what matters most to me now is the way it morphs in and out of my life with what I've been through, and where I am today with the music. It's always for me about the music, and then I can really separate my home life and my recovery and I used to really separate all those things, but they morph together now. It's just who I am. I'm so authentic on stage today, it scares me. It's like,
that's the thing. I think that's the thing about growing, and like once we start healing, we get to that place that there's not really a choice, because there's that, for everybody it's different, that phase we get to where authenticity is like, okay, it's a full suit you're going to step into, and like you can't keep stuff separate, because
no. You can't, I used to care so much about what people thought because I was hiding a lot of secrets.
Yeah.
Then you get to a place where, people are going to still think what they're going to think. And I like to say this, whatever you think about me, I promise you, I'm not thinking about you. I am thinking about what's next in my life to be rooted, grounded, successful, and vulnerable. Those things are most important to me, because I was so shut down for so many years. I mean, I'm a crybaby now, but you wouldn't see a tear rolling down this eye for probably 22 years of my life.
Okay, so what matters most now? What mattered most then, or did you think mattered most then?
It was like an amusement park. It was like the Roadrunner. It was like I was so all over the place. I didn't have a clue what mattered most.
Yeah.
I just was trying to make the next gig, make the next amount of money, figure out how to compete with what was going on, how to stay relevant. And
sometimes, quite frankly, a song is going to, it has such a wide breadth and what have you. I mean, it's going to speak to so many people that even if it doesn't.
It's the one thing in my entire journey that has been untouched, is the gift of music and my ability to sing it. It takes me right back to that little Pentecostal church. It's never affected me when I've stood in front of that microphone. It's been the one thing that I could lean on that would get me through, because it's been the one thing that was always of my higher power, that was always of God, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It was the thing I could depend on when I could depend on anything else. And to this day, it's astounding. I didn't know it then, but to this day, it's astounding me how it's been I call it the gift, the ability to do music, to sing it. To sing, I think, probably better than I've ever sang in my life. We're raising keys.
You're taking good care of your voice.
Well, I did learn how to sing from my diaphragm, but I think it was just a habit. But I wouldn't be here where I'm at today if that gift wasn't taken care of.
Yeah.
And I did not purposely take care of it. It just showed up when I needed it. And it sounds crazy, I know, but in the heart of my worst addiction, I never missed a show. In the heart of it all, I something in my consciousness said, take a nap. I never walked on stage and let anybody even think for a minute that something was wrong with me. It was a gift that I stepped into, and it never let me down. I could be standing off stage, man. Just.
Would I be wrong in saying that music mattered the most, and you were going to do anything to show up for it? And now you've done so much work on yourself that you put yourself first and your health first. Yeah. And because you've done that, the music has been preserved, and the table the switch has been completely
very
flipped.
Well said, my friend. Yeah, and just the circle of life for me has become so special. I cannot wait to get on stage. I used to dread it. There was a long time that I was just like, okay, this gig is just here because I've got to make some money. I couldn't find anything special in it, but I'd get up there and do it, and I would do a great job, but there was no passion in it. And I'm calling my manager constantly going, where's the next show? Is it a casino? Is it a performing arts center? Is it an orchestra? What is it? I can't wait to show up and show out. And it's that's changed a lot for me. Yeah. And I'm feeling very loved. I'm feeling like people are discovering my music for the first time, even the older stuff. And
yeah,
I've had people walk up to me and go, man, I had never heard that song.
Right.
I didn't. And I said, well, a lot of times people don't know me, but they know my music.
That part. I've had a lot of people when I, talk about you, and that I'm like, you got to know, come on, let's listen. And oh yeah, this is his. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that was partly due, because when I went through, a really horrible time back in the 90s, people still loved my music, but disc jockeys just stopped saying my name. They would just say, here's a great new song. And my name pretty much got erased, but my music didn't. So you asked me, which would you rather have? I would rather have the songs. I'd rather have the songs be heard. And that was a really humbling thing to have to go through. Getting on the other side of that, I'm getting a chance to redo them now. 30 years later, that the name and the song go together finally.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome.
It is. You talked about transformation in your life before, and we've started touching on it today. But it feels like something has shifted again in a really big way lately. What's been the most powerful mindset or life shift for you in this latest chapter? And what was the moment that finally made you say, I can't keep living that way?
Ooh, that's a lot of answers and a lot of questions. Wow. My mind shift has been confidence. I don't walk into a room anymore with my head down. I don't walk into a very powerful meeting and sit in the back of the room. And I love this story because it a little bit of it came from Christian Chenoweth, a little bit came from Shelley Wright. But individually, they kind of both said, you always show up. You're here, you are at Carnegie Hall. The place is packed with powerful people, and you're always in the room, but you're invisible because you sit on the back row. Why don't we get you moved up to maybe somewhere in the middle where the action is and show up for you? You don't need to be in the front row. That's Keith and Nicole up there. You just have to be in the middle and be present. And that, I've told that story so many times because I believe it now. I show up for myself, and I don't need to sit in the back row unless I've accomplished what I needed to accomplish. And back rows. I just got back from 2 weeks in Italy. That was back row. Just my husband and I and some friends. We had a wonderful, beautiful time. And I knew I had to come back home, and I had to get my butt back in the middle of the auditorium because I was going to sit down with you. I knew we've got Love and Acceptance coming up. I knew that I've got...
Which, when this airs, is already going to have happened.
Right.
And
I already had happened.
I wish I could be telling you all how... I'm going to say, wow, that concert was amazing, and this and this and this happened, but I still don't know because I haven't been told. Lots of secrets. You always got stuff up your sleeve, and
man.
I can't wait to...
This is real life TV. I love it. So edit. I do all this stuff is coming up. We just finished Love and Acceptance.
Yeah, right.
And I've got an album. I've got 3 albums coming out this year. So
3?
3, yes. Just, you know, the way that we do things today, it's all separated, but yet, you know, we're releasing the LeAnn thing. Then, 3 months later, we release 3 more things, and then 3 months later, the album comes. But I'm finally doing that Standards album that Christian Chenoweth so encouraged me to do, you know, because we're doing more orchestra houses now. So I'm so excited about that record. And then the 15th year of Journey On, which was the Grammy-nominated album, is we're going to re-release that because it's not been available for almost 7 years.
Oh, wow.
So we're putting that back out with 3 new releases, one of which I wrote with my new mother-in-law. She prefers Mother in Love. So with Charlotte Medley, she's an incredible songwriter, but it's a song called Carrying Water. Just talk about carrying water to help people and being a beautiful example of what we need today. Is all of us coming together and quenching the thirst in the things that we need. And it's just a gorgeous song. So we're cutting that with full orchestra. And talk about full circle, man. I'm recording a song with my mother-in-law. Wow, that's what a crazy gift. So got me emotional on that one. You know, I love you, honey. This is a good answer for the question you're asking. It's changed me. There's been, I've never known love like this. I've never been loved like this. I've never met anybody that loves as big as I do. And then it makes sense besides God. And I come from that family, and I just married into one. And with nieces and nephews, and 2 of them just being born, I mean, and talking about maybe having a family of our own, it has never been in the realm of my thinking. And it is so here, and it fills me up. That's what these are about. So, break.
No, you don't get a break.
Woo!
We're powering through.
Tissues.
This is the point. This is the point where we lean in.
I can't wipe my eyes with this. I blew my nose.
We got to lean in. Being one of the first openly gay men in mainstream country wasn't just a personal decision. It changed an entire genre.
Well,
but what part of your identity felt most misunderstood after you came out?
I'm going to hug the pillow on this one. I really and truly, I think, like I said earlier, I've always had a little problem with labels, you know, and I'm not talking about record labels. Just, I think it's a hard thing for any kid to have to do is put a label on themselves. So, you know, finding the balance with just being a little guy that grew up on a pig farm at South Alabama and being a country star and coming out and just finding the balance of all that, of just being an artist, being authentically, I'm just a damn artist. You know, I'm an artist who has maybe a little bit different pictures on the walls than your house, you know, but my heart and my love it equals anyone's. And that's what I like to teach kids today. My grandmother always said, and I love this, and she was 97 years old when she went to heaven. She was writing a song on her Gibson guitar and just went to sleep. But she said, if you didn't learn something today, then you're not living. And I love that. But one of my favorite things that she used to say is, and she'd say it, she sat up in the Pentecostal church and say it. When I got tattoos, because these were the thorns of Christ. And she said, my grandson got the thorns of Christ, and that's exactly what they mean. It's the thorns of Christ because he's a believer. You know, she would stand up, and she'd stand up for me, but she would always say, if you put 1,000 hearts on the table, you see 1,000 beautiful hearts. You don't see race, color, sex. You don't see any of that. It's just 1,000 beautiful hearts that God made. And why can't we see that today? And so I come from that kind of stock, y'all. But I knew that I had to stand up and say, you know, that I'm gay. I'm an individual who I don't want to tell you that I'm different because I don't want to feel different. I'm a man. I'm a man that loves God. I love our country. You know, I love my mama. I love my husband. You know, I didn't think I'd ever get one. And just when you start living your life to its fullest, it's amazing what God will do. Higher power, whatever you want to call it, the tree, I don't care, you know, but I believe in miracles. I believe in people. I will never stop that. There's too much of my mother and grandmother in me and my dad. And so to answer that question,
I think that the part I want to hear is what part of your identity after doing that felt most misunderstood.
The fact that I was having to stand up and put a label on my chest. I didn't like that. I felt misunderstood because I just wanted you to see me as, as still Ty Herndon, the artist. I didn't. It was confusing for me.
What messages did you receive, or did you believe that at the time that were not true? Wow. Well, that you were not going to love me anymore. That you were going to turn away from me and my music if you knew this about me. That you were not going to like me, and that how unfair that was. And I don't want to teach that to anybody. I don't want a kid to think because you say who you are that people are going to not love you. But that's the truth. And so I had to accept that. That was a shift that had to happen in me, was accepting the truth that people are going to go away. They maybe are not even going to love you. I've had fans just come to me and show, this is my last show. I just wanted to tell you that I don't love you anymore. And that's good as a slap across the face, but you got to really know who you are in those moments, and just say, well, you know what? I love you. And thank you for the years of loving my music, and hopefully you'll come back. I believe in you. And the redneck in me wants to say, get the hell out. I don't need your damn love. But that's not who I am. I've seen enough of that in the world, and I've seen enough of it today. We have, you're going to get me preaching here, Patrick. I believe in a better day. And I don't want it to be 10 years from now. I want to believe in people that they're going to stand up and open up their brains and open up their mouths and do the right things. And they're not always going to do that, but my job is to try every day to do that. That's the thing, and I think where you and we connect so much on, I believe we all have a passion, mission, and vision.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know that everybody connects and realizes that they have one, whether or not, right? I think you and I have a very similar one, and I think it's like in all walks of what we're doing to connect people to something that makes their lived experience better.
I've said it a million times. I think before you even graduate high school, you need that the kids need to go to a 12-step meeting. They need to go. I think it should be to walk through some of these really great, really groundbreaking spiritual awakenings within yourself.
Where I agree and disagree with you, because I grew up in a family where alcoholism ran down my dad's side. My oldest brother, he's 19 years older than me. So when I was like 12, he came back to my parents brought him back to Nashville, and he went to his final treatment center. And it was a 12-step boot. It's actually where I ended up going when I needed to get sober. And but it was a 12-step immersion program, and I remember going out there, and we would sit through the AA meetings, on family day, but that didn't apply to me.
Right.
I could not receive any of that. I mean, like none of it sunk in. I remember looking at everything and being like, these people are so weak and whatever. Like that, I just did the 12 steps sitting here. Like and so the part of me saying I agree and I don't agree isn't that I'm saying that they shouldn't go, but also that people like you and me, like until we're ready, like you might as well be putting Chinese, a language we don't understand in front of us.
I'm talking about doing the 12 steps around getting a job, around, not necessarily around a disease that you're going to have or not have.
Gotcha.
Something that applies so strongly that sets you on a course of greatness. So that's what I meant by that. So I got you immediately when you said that. I was like, okay, I know where you're coming from, man.
Well, and one of the things that I'm so grateful for is that 12 steps, they're not just, and a lot of people don't know this, 12 steps aren't just for addiction. And so I'm so grateful that addiction
that's where I was going with that.
brought me to a place where it was life or death that I had to have the 12 steps.
Yeah.
And so but now it applies to everything in my life, like as it does. And so,
When I go up the stairs at home, the first 12 steps, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12. There's 22 steps upstairs. So we have super high ceilings. So there you go.
This podcast is brought to you by Promises Behavioral Health. If you or a loved one are struggling with trauma, addiction, or mental health, we are ready to answer your questions and help you take that next step. Call our admissions center at 888-648-4098 or visit us online at www.promises.com. Our team is ready and waiting to answer the call for help.
Yes. You've been through public controversy, as we've kind of touched on. Some of it recent-ish. Not recent, but it's clear some wounds didn't get addressed in real time. When did you realize that silence was hurting you more than speaking out ever could?
Okay, now put that in English for me, would you?
Yes. See, when I write these, I'm like, oh, this is so eloquent. This is a great question. Okay. So in the time that
I love you, man.
I love you too. For those of you who don't know, we give each other a hard time all the time. So yeah, and simply put, in the public stuff you've had to deal with.
Yeah.
Do you remember a time where it was shown to you that being silent was going to take you out? And there are multiple things that you've had, you've chosen to be open about.
Yeah.
Right? Like coming out, stuff with, different parts, addiction, mental health, trauma. I feel like we have so much of the stuff that has shame, if you have a public platform, if you're going to be vulnerable and open, you come out multiple times, tell people about it.
I remember sitting in front of, and I got your question completely, by the way, and I love you. Thank you. I remember I went and did a TED Talk basically in front of 450 mental health doctors, and they wrote the questions. And for the first time in my life, I just kind of stopped and I said, all right, I can give a lot of answers here, and I'm quite sure that none of you are going to write any of them down. So I'm just going to be brutally honest with my story.
Yeah.
And I have, it was a pivotal moment for me in that afternoon that I did not feel any shame. I was able to open up and talk about so many things that I've never talked about before, because I'm in a room of clinical people, and it was the first time that I was standing so tall that I felt no shame. I didn't have to hide anything, and I took that feeling and I said, I'll never feel that way again. I'll never feel that way again, because I have faced my demons, and God help me if another one shows up. I have a really strong tool belt. My intuition is so strong now. I know what's coming at me. I don't care what you think about me anymore, because I know who I am, and I have no shame about telling my story. And I'm actually about to do it in a really big way. Some things we can't talk about right now, but I know you hate that, but I'm going to, there is so much truth coming down the highway that there is no room for shame. There is no room for anything but the truth, and how it's going to help me to tell it, and how it's going to help others to feel it, know it, and pass it on. I can't. By the way, I love that question. By the way, I'm giving you a hard time. I don't know that I would have ever been equipped for any of this. Going all the way back to the question, well, what would I change? Nothing. I mean, I'm going to cry again. I can't imagine. I never thought I'd have this life, and it's so beautiful. And my husband and I were sitting on the couch last night. I think we're just watching reruns of gosh, I can't even remember because I was half asleep. But I wake up and I look at him and I go, I ask him about this. And you say, I often go, hey, you are real, right? you're going to stay, right? And he's just graciously looks at me and goes, I am a rock.
Wait, did you say you pinch yourself or you pinch him?
I pinch myself because I can't. Sometimes I can't. I get ahead of myself when I'm preaching.
Yeah,
I can't believe it sometimes.
Yeah,
And here's another thing to answer this question. I finally stopped waiting for the other damn shoe to drop. It was fucking me up. It was nothing good could happen for me because I thought it would not last. And if this was going to happen, somebody or something, and probably me, was going to screw it up. But then I realized one day, working with my sponsor, he goes, you got to stop this, man. He goes, what's the point of all this work if you're going to think that way? Let it go. Tear down the room. Burn it down. House on fire. I live by what I write, and sometimes I can't believe it because I don't know what to do. And when I don't know what to do, I get scared. And when you get scared, you make mistakes. And so instead of going through all of that crap, I've just kind of learned to sit down, meditate, hold up, Herndon. You're not going in that room. You locked it. You closed it. And if something challenging or bad is going to happen, you know how to deal with it now. Yeah. You have people to talk to. You have a program to lean on. You have, by the grace of God, she's 85 years old, but she's got more wit than any of us knows my mom. She's so freaking wise, and she will tell you the truth and tell you all without you even knowing it. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
And I'm going over there today. She wants to sit in the rocking chairs. My grandmother's rocking chairs. They're sitting out under that oak tree at her house. And, I'm going to sit there with her and we're going to just sit there and talk. I learned something. And so when your eyes are wide open, don't be afraid of what anybody else thinks.
You mentioned a lot of really good themes, and it took me to a place of, you did. And it took me to a place of thinking about this practice that, a therapist just shared with me, and I can't stop thinking about it. It's so good. When you get to that place of the feeling like the other shoe is going to drop, because so many of us come from that chronic feeling, whether you're on a stage or not.
Such a good word. Yes.
And so even when you're at a place of healing where that's not your everyday, like many of the things that we're healing from, recovering from, it doesn't mean it goes away permanently. So like when you get in that place where you feel stuck, you go back and you talk to the person from 5 years ago and what have you, and you say in a healing way, what would you say to them? And then, okay, let's go to the version of you step into the shoes of the version of you from 5 years from now. What would that version 5 years from now tell you in this moment as you're freaking out about this apparent other shoe that might be dropping? They would say, you already know.
I'm hoping it's probably to help a kid find his other shoe. Instead of looking for that crap.
Right.
We're moving on, man.
That's right.
We're building
the point is you already, it's within us. It's within us all along. And it's sometimes, as you mentioned, the tool belt that we go to reference and practice, that we have it in here. We just have to remember how to access and speak to that part of ourselves and bring us back to,
For me, I'm so visual, and I have to go back to Butler, Alabama, where my 10-year-old lives, and climb up in a treehouse where it's his favorite spot, and I have to hug him and let him know that I got this. He's not driving that ship anymore. That 10-year-old is just being a 10-year-old. And, I was well into my almost 40s before I ever let him even out to play. And because I didn't know how. I didn't know how to play. And it was too serious. And I'm a silly dude. I'm weird and I'm silly, and I'm embraced it. And it's the reason my husband fell in love with me. I have to go see that guy I have to love on him at least once a week and let him know everything's okay. You know, Big Brother Tyrone's got this, and I love that kid, and I have.
What would you say to somebody that hasn't had that experience yet?
Go find him or her. Go play with that kid. Let him know everything's going to be okay, because our kids live in us. You know, my grandmother, bless her, Grandma Myrtle, she played that guitar, she'd giggle, and that was that 15-year-old little girl that learned to play that guitar with her dad. You know, and being able to see those things and understand them is 1,000,000% life. And my eyes have never been so wide open, and I'm not scared. You know, I'm still scared of my mama, but
that healthy fear. You know, I think it's the healing, as we chase healing and healthy relationships and healthy experiences, we get connected more and more to things that support the dynamic of what you're talking about, that support embracing the weird, the fun, the silly, all that stuff. Who's shown up in your life recently in a way that you didn't know that you needed, but it helped you heal something you thought you had to carry alone?
My mother-in-law, Charlotte. We get on the phone. We have a little code, and I say, I'm calling as a friend. You know, this is friend advice, and it's son in love calling. You know, if it's son in love calling, it's usually I need to know something about Alex. You know, just how to handle something, or just I need to know about his little boy, and maybe the secret to marriage, y'all, finding out about those kids that live in your spouses. But Charlotte's a prayer warrior, and she is a healer. She is incredibly intuitive. Alex is so much like her, it's crazy. But she shifts my thinking if I'm having a moment about something in my career or just something personal. She's been through so much. She puts it in layman's terms, and sometimes makes me feel really silly that I felt that way, and I need that, and I didn't know that I needed that.
Is there something that you feel comfortable sharing with us that was impactful?
No. Yes, of course. I called her one day, just this last week, and I was really stressing out about this music that I'm doing with all these other artists, and I was having a moment of feeling a little less than. And she stopped me.
You experienced imposter syndrome?
Yeah. Yes, yeah. I love artists, and I respect, great artists, and I've been working with some great artists. And she said, "Can I just stop you right now?" She goes, "Take your phone and go in there and stand in front of the mirror." She goes, "Who do you see? Do you see a grown-up, very accomplished man that married my son whose entire family absolutely loves you?" She goes, "Okay, go be that guy." Really simple. I'm gonna cry again. Hallelujah. Wow. So
that's
3 times you've done it to me, buddy.
I told you to buckle up.
I've got a little pile of tissues over here. I'm just going to keep going. No, I get emotional because I'm proud that I do, but I value people in my life today that will tell me the truth. And, I never could hear it because I was trying to hide so much. You might tell me the truth, but I'm going to argue with you. I'm going to convince you that's not what's going on. Instead of just opening my heart, to have a friend like Charlotte or my mom or my manager, Zeke, people in my life they don't have labels. I don't like that. They are friends and they're family, and I lean on them. And I married a man that he does not play when it comes to the truth. He's been through his own stuff, and he will look at me and go, "Okay, you just got off the road and you're kind of Hollywooding me. I want you to go take a shower, settle down. Rein it in. And I'm just all over the place, and I would have never been able to hear that before. I'm like, what? No, but I appreciate it. Now I'm like, you're right. I need to settle down.
Isn't there something so special about getting in that place in a relationship where because no matter what, when you really get in a relationship, at a certain point, a healthy relationship,
right?
We become mirrors to each other, and unlike any other person can be,
right?
And I know I think that, because of trauma, distrust, all kinds of stuff, I couldn't listen to that from anybody, and it took a while to settle into where I had enough trust to hear that from mine. And
right.
so
criticism, huh? What?
Yeah, but now it's like, oh wait, no, this is the person that I should be like. I need to.
Did you ever take criticism so hard you take it so personally that I'm just, we're friends.
Me?
Yeah. that you couldn't see that someone's just trying to help you. They're wanting you to hear their heart. Not throwing a dart at you.
Yeah.
It took Alex to sit me down and tell me that. Like, I'm not throwing a dart at you. I'm seeing something that needs a little tuning.
Yeah.
And are you open to hearing that right now? And I love that he's had enough recovery and therapy to go, are you listening? Is it okay if we talk about this right now?
Yeah.
And, like in any marriage, you turn that around on him, he might not like it. Honey, are you willing to hear? Because are you making fun of me?
Well, but to your point, and I love that we can laugh about this, because it's both funny and serious.
It is.
Because I think I know that me, and I'm not unique in this. We get to that place where we're so defensive, because of many things. I know for mine, like, I had to keep people at bay for so long because my unhealthy coping mechanisms were like, can't be seen, can't find out, don't look at me, like, how dare you? And then, but also trauma comes in a form that's right. So like when you've been hurt, you're like, you gotta, my guard is up and constantly. And
trauma can be your best friend. It can be the icing on the cake, or it can be the thing that takes you down. And trauma work has changed my life. And I did 4 months of it in Houston, Texas, at J. Flowers Institute, and it wasn't a damn thing about the drugs and alcohol. It was about what was living in me that needed to get out and get some brand new tools to deal with myself and the things that had happened to me in my life that I had locked away. Usually trauma's driving drugs and alcohol. You will hear it a lot, and it's true, or maybe not in your life. It's your story, and it's your story to tell, your story to figure out. But I can tell you this, it changed everything for me.
Speaking of that, what truth about yourself took you the longest to believe, but once you did, it changed everything?
Facing my demons. There were... And not having secrets, and not every secret that you have needs to be talked about. You've got counseling, you've got things you have to deal with yourself. But but there can be enough of them that they're little like ticks and tacks that are keeping you from growing. And so,
in the interest of helping somebody else grow, I'm going to ask you to not generalize and go there on one or two of them.
Okay, which ones?
I don't know. You get to choose.
Oh, wow. What was the question again?
Well, what truth about yourself took the longest to believe, but once you did, it changed everything. So, you're right in that not everything needs to be talked about, but the one, is there one or two
I was
that you're
specifically
okay?
talking about that with you. I was just saying, the thing that, there's so many answers to that question. I've got like.
I know. Okay, so this is where you and I relate a lot.
Yeah.
What is like the first one that you come to? And how about? Well, let me say this. The first one you come to that is not one that you always go to and talk about all the time.
Oh my Lord, I'm so loving you right now.
Because I know you too well.
Yep, it's true. Being comfortable in my truth. Just being comfortable in my skin and being able to love myself.
What does that look like? What did it look like not? And what does that look like being comfortable?
Okay, child, here we go. All right. What does it look like not?
Yeah.
A guy that absolutely doesn't want to get out of bed, doesn't want to deal with anybody else in the day. Almost like a guy that has had no tools to know how to deal with his life.
You say doesn't want to deal with, how does that manifest? Like not answering the phone when friends call?
Yeah, it's reverting back to some very old ways, that our body remembers.
Yeah.
And I just call that a bad day. And you just, you just got to get up and go take a shower. And it only takes one move, and it's just to get up.
Yeah.
And so I don't have a lot of those days anymore.
What does it look like? Let's flush it out and then
absolutely.
go to the contrast.
Oh man, I think you can have a bad dream, and if it's a using dream or just something stupid, that's you're down on yourself. I'm actually, part of my process. I'm a man in recovery from depression as well, so that lives in me. It killed my father. There was not meds back then to help him, and I've been able to do so much recovery for him, even though he's in heaven, because that lives in me. And so if I wake up really depressed, I know it because I'm heavy. My body, it feels like it's 500 pounds in the mattress. And I know that guy cannot exist today. And what do? I've got a tool belt full of things. I pray first. I say, God grant me serenity to step. I do the normal prayer, and then I roll into my Pentecostal prayer, and I was like, okay, this leg has got to get out of this bed, and because I'm not going to have this day. I've had enough of these days, and I'm not going to. And I think to myself, I'm gonna let my Father help me with this. Not my Father in heaven, but my Daddy in heaven, my Dad. Because I'm going to get up for you, Dad. It's a process. So,
do you ever have a place? Do you ever experience a place where you're unable to see the light, like the depression? Even now, in that moment, you have a bad day. It's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and remember that just that 1 foot out of bed is going to lead to the next thing that makes you feel better or more connected.
Yes.
And
yes.
So what do you...
I'm glad I'm finally here with you.
Yeah. If you're forgetting, when you're in that space of forgetting your access to hope in that point.
Yes.
Do you have a rope that you've kind of left, a breadcrumb trail that you've left yourself?
You just went right into my sponsor says, following the breadcrumbs. So, I think they're always there, and their hope and their knowledge and all the things are in your tool belt, and
they're always there. Yeah. But when you're in a position of what you're describing, it's like you don't see them, smell them, or feel them
until you pray. And that opens the channel. That's the thing I have to do first. And it's the hardest thing in any kind of recovery to remember to do that. And why is that? But it's knee jerk for me now. It's a heaven jerk is what I say. I have to do that. And when I'm in a good mood, I pray, the Lord help me through this day, that I'll be better today, and that I'll say something, do something, help somebody that makes a difference. But on the bad days, it's just simply, let me get the fuck out of bed. And I'm not afraid to say fuck to God, because God loves me. And if I need to get the fuck out of bed, then I need to get the fuck out of bed.
You mentioned something that I think that I really identify and relate with. And this is, to me, this is deep. It's been a real big lesson for me to be able to go to this place. But you said, I don't know why it takes me a while to get there sometimes, but the first thing is prayer.
Yep.
Are there points where sometimes you guess or have doubt, or maybe just like you're like, you forget that it actually works?
No, I can't. I can't do that because I spent a lot of years forgetting. And it rarely gets to that place for me anymore because it's the tool belt you built before you go to bed, the prayer you do before, and planning, your positivity for the next day. You go to bed with some good things. That's what I have to do because I can't. I feel like I've earned a spot in my own body, in my soul, in my mind that I don't have to do that anymore. And but I'm human, and they're going to happen. They don't happen a lot, but I do have a recipe for me that works to get me out of it. I'd be sitting here lying to you if I say, if it's all perfect. I've been preaching about a lot of great things, but every day's not great. I get super upset and sad about things I'm passionate about, and my friend and manager Zeke, or my mom or my husband have to kind of talk me off the fence. Because I get too passionate. Sometimes if I get too far out there, that could actually end up making some sadness happen. That
we all have imbalance that we've got to. Some people just are the ones that tether. So I love the metaphor. Somebody said somebody's got to be the kite, and the other somebody's got to be the string.
Right.
You and I, my friend, are the kites.
We are the kites. Yes, and then you put artist in front of that. It's like what? So everything that it's manifested in my life today, I am grateful for, but we're talking about some serious stuff here, and it's challenging. It's full of love and celebration and a lot of heartbreak, and you can't carry all that because when you're trying to help others, you have to leave it at the cross. It's like my doctor friend said, I win and I lose when I go into surgery, but I can't take it home. I can't. And that said a lot to me, from just a life standpoint, that you have to leave it at the cross. If the cross meaning God, but cross also meaning a place of reverence that you just can't carry that with you. Because
you're talking about a very spiritual principle that whether you're God, whatever spiritual practice, whatever state of being you're in, letting go.
Let go of God. Yeah, letting go. But when your tank gets full, you can overflow with joy, but you can also overflow with things that are not going to help you. And so I think it's really important to know the difference by what you just said.
Okay.
Speaking
of joy.
I like talking about joy.
Me too. Someone listening right now.
I got the joy down in my heart.
Yes, you do, my friend. Actually, I was just going to say, it's my favorite core emotion, and it's one that I want to stay in, like in a way that keeps me sometimes from experiencing the other emotions that I need to experience.
Right.
That's been a big lesson for me in life lately. Is
I hear you, man.
You gotta what is it? You gotta go through the rain to experience the sun.
Got to dance in the rain.
Yes. Someone listening right now is where you were confused, in pain, maybe performing joy, but feeling stuck.
Mm-hmm.
If they could only hold on to one thing today, what do you want it to be?
I'm saying this to someone?
Mm-hmm.
You hold on to one thing?
Yeah.
Wow. We're talking about joy. So, number one, finding that joy and finding the confidence.
This person is performing joy.
Oh, they're performing joy. What I want to say to that person, oh, wow, get real. I mean, come on, like I just talked about people telling me the truth. It's really difficult to say that to somebody if you don't know them. But, I'm not going to walk up to Anthony Robbins if I think he's not, if he's putting false joy out there. But if it's someone that you know and love, and for me, it's like, hey, can we just have a minute? Are you okay?
Yeah.
This will lead me to something very important I want to say today, because over the years when I've been in trouble, I just simply didn't have enough people just to humbly come up to me and go, hey, are you okay? I love you. Is there anything I can do? And instead of going, I know this is going to, I don't know about you. Alex and I don't do that. We still have friends that maybe need to be in recovery, that I will never be that guy. I'll never be that guy that will say, you're not welcome at my dinner table, ever. Here we go again. I get very emotional about this because I have carried around so much pain about that, but from people that you feel like they loved you, and they went away at the heart of when you needed them the most. I've had to let go of a lot of that because for me, it had to land in a place where I still loved them. And it's not about forgiveness, not about any of that crap. It's just about, I know you didn't see me. It's okay. I see you. And, I will never, ever do that to anybody. Neither one of us will.
Looking back, though,
yeah.
Do you believe that happened to you or happened for you?
I believe it happened for me. Absolutely. Everything is full circle. That's really when forgiveness comes.
Yeah.
That's really when you're okay with whoever's in your life, and you know that they have a place at your table or they don't. And it's okay, because I don't have a place at everybody's table.
Yeah.
I certainly don't expect, I don't have great expectations for something that's not the truth. And I love everybody. I try to, but I know 1,000,000% who's at my table today. And that doesn't mean if you're sitting across the street at a picnic table that I don't love you, because I do. And I don't expect you to love me like I love you. That's probably not going to happen. But if I'm talking to that person who's faking joy, I would just number one say, because I'm a spiritual guy. Like, can we just sit down and talk for a cup of coffee? What's going on?
Let me reframe.
Okay.
You're talking to somebody right now in the audience that's listening, that is where you were. They're confused right now. They're experiencing pain.
Child, you're so deep. Okay. I love this.
And they are performing joy. And deep down, they know it's not real.
Yeah. I mean,
they're feeling stuck.
Yeah.
What one thing can you tell them to get them motivated in a direction to pull them out?
I don't know that there's one thing, to be honest with you, but I can say that I would want to hug them and say, I know where you are. I've been where you are, and it's such a long conversation, because you want to, that one person, I couldn't say one thing to them, Patrick.
I know, because you're the one, you're like, no, but I want the whole buffet.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you were to say one thing that was going to strike the match, that's going to light the fire, that's going to burn it all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What would be one thing that could get what's the 1 foot out of bed in this scenario?
Wow. It's simple for me. I love you. I want you to have what I got. I love you. It's possible. It's so possible. See me, you see me, you got this. Yeah. It's encouragement.
And I would say, the example is, hell, you're talking about somebody who lived in decades of
I love you. Right.
This shit that we're talking, that I just outlined.
Be okay. I love you. Yeah.
You were able to get to this place after.
Yeah.
I'd
have to talk to that person like they were my 10-year-old kid in that treehouse. I love you. I want to hug you. You're going to be okay. But most people don't believe they're going to be okay. And it really takes one person to tell you authentically that you're going to be okay. I don't know what your okay looks like, but you're going to be okay. It's just talk to somebody, talk to somebody you trust, and that you honor, and that beyond a shadow of a doubt, honors you no matter what. I hope everybody has that.
Yeah.
I know I always did. I didn't always see it, but I know it was there, and I know it was God. I'm not talking y'all like, God showed up and that was sitting by me. He's always been right here. He's always been right here. He's here. But I'm just talking about someone that sees you no matter how bad it is and loves you and would nehave go away from you. Mm-hmm. I was surrounded by those people, but I just couldn't see them. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to have folks, if it's that one person, to find
that one person that even just could be possible.
And you're going to find there's more than one.
Yeah.
And then also those people, they really have to be, hopefully they could talk amongst themselves and know how to talk to that person. Because there's a language.
I'm going to take you back for a second, because
Yes.
you're living in the land of how wonderful life is right now. But let's go back to the person you were talking about back when you thought nobody would believe, everything would be taken away from you, you were performing.
Yeah.
In that moment, did you think that there was one person that you could crack open? And you know what I mean?
Yes, there was, but I was full of fear for them to see me. I was full of fear that I had so many dysfunctional, crappy lies going on in my own life and I had built this persona that none of it was going on. Of course, everybody knew it was, but I was so full of fear that the person that I did trust and love would go away if I even gave a glimpse of what was going on with me. And now I know they wouldn't have, because they've more than proven themselves. But you're not going to tell an addict that's got a time bomb living in them that they're going to expose themselves to another human that really would help them. Yeah. Because for me, I'm just that 10-year-old that wanted to be loved. I don't want to disappoint you. Yeah. I don't want you to not love me. Who amongst us here would want that? And it's pivotal.
I don't know. I have my PhD in people pleasing. So
me and you both, brother. And I'm not sure I ever pleased a damn person, because there wasn't an authentic bone in my body. And
man,
I love this. I mean,
me too.
I didn't know we'd get this real, but I'm in church right now and I love it. So bless you, brother.
And bless you right back. Listen, at this point, in our future reality, when this is airing, the show is just going to have happened, and
it happened.
Yes, and we talked about the bringing together of all parts, the spirituality, the identity, who we truly are, and you've been doing such a beautiful job of that over this past decade.
Thank you.
With yourself, and also with the Foundation for Love and Acceptance and the Concert for Love and Acceptance. You coming out,
my baby.
You coming out wasn't just brave. It cracked something open in the genre. What does it feel like now, looking around and see a genre of queer country artists finding their voice because you found yours first?
They're so beautiful. They're so confident. They're so in love with themselves, and they know who they are. And my gosh, Brooke Eden, Fancy Haygood, Matt Bloyd, all these artists that there's no need for a label. They're living without fear. That they know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they can do this. Yeah. They can be in this business. They can be loved. They can find their fan base, and they can find their room, and they can thrive in it. And if we had any small part of that, I talked to Shelley Wright about this. We're so proud that through any kind of pain that we may have gone through, or ones before us, to see the joy that these artists are putting out there and the truth that they're writing. Man, I would have never thought that I could have had any part of that, and I couldn't. I came out, Patrick, really, to be honest with you, because I couldn't live with myself anymore. I couldn't live in my body. I couldn't live in the blood and bones that God gave me. They were just boiling on the inside. I was about to implode, and I didn't care if I lost my career at that point. I'd find something else to do, but I had to set myself free. And if it meant, putting a label on, putting that dress or pair of breeches on and going to do that, then I was going to do it. And with great art, great people and friends like Shelley Wright and the great late Howard Bragman and Mitchell Gold and just some really high-powered truth tellers that helped me. And they brought me into rooms that I, for the first time, saw that they were really beautiful and I could live here. Yeah. And I didn't need to have any of that bullshit. I didn't need it. And
I'm going to challenge you.
Woo! Again? Okay.
Sorry. Not sorry.
Got the joy,
you say
joy,
you don't like labels.
Well, not today. I mean, I get them today. They're necessary.
Yes. you don't mind country artists. You don't mind child of God. You don't mind handsome gentlemen. You don't. When we talk about gay, I don't know about you, but for me, there's still sometimes there's power in it, but do you think that there's still work to be done for you and many of us, and claiming and taking the power back that was meant for evil?
Ooh, child. Yes. I mean, give me a label if it's going to mean that. Absolutely. I will fight you for it. And that's a label with purpose. That's a label with soul. That's a label with healing. That's something I want to wear. Yes. But if you're just going to call me, a gay country artist, I got no use for you.
Yeah.
That's a shameful label. It's full of shame. I'm an actual serious artist singing country music and making a difference, and I'm gay. Fine. Yes. I'll take that label and I'll tattoo it across my forehead, but I just don't want to put up with crappy labels, but I didn't know the difference then.
Yeah.
But I do now. And so I have to grow. I mean, I just feel like I'm just now planting seeds that I don't know what's going to grow, but I know they're good. And, that was a great question, my friend. That was
my hair's not down, but I'm tossing it. Well, thank you.
I got the joy
You sure
joy
do.
down in my heart.
And I do too. What do you create differently now that you're no longer creating from the place of survival?
That's another good question. I think the music now is turned into celebration. It's turned into hope. It's turned into lessons. It's turned into faith. It's turned into what are you going to do about this? You won't know it till you get there. It's the truth sayer. It's fun. When you start talking about, you're just sitting down in a writing session right now. We're done in an hour and a half. There's no struggling to find the next line. It just freaking comes out.
Yeah.
I used to struggle with writing because it's like, this is bullshit. I don't like this. And, then all of a sudden we start these last 3 albums of my life, and it's like, I can't wait. And I can't wait to get in the studio, and I can't, I've got a love for it now that is so
Would
authentic.
I be correct in saying that you were saying back then, this is bullshit, because you felt like, this is bullshit. But in reality, it was bullshit because you weren't being authentic. And now...
Like, what lie am I going to tell today in this music? I don't feel like doing that.
When you said that, I all of a sudden saw these two different versions of like this is bullshit, and I'm like, oh, the meaning is such a double. Like
it is. Yeah,
takes on a different.
I don't want to go to sleep with that. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
In my life, it's not enough Botox.
10 years ago, you launched the Concert for Love and Acceptance. Before it was cool for country music to openly support LGBTQ plus artists.
Right.
What was going on in your heart and your life that made you say, I need to create this space now?
Somebody started talking to me about a platform, and I was like, okay, are you sure I'm going to have one? I wasn't even sure I was going to have a career, but the overwhelming amount of love that I received, over 250 text messages when the news broke. My phone started going off at 3:00 in the morning, and it wasn't supposed to happen for 2 more days, and it was crazy, but I was so humbled. I knew within an hour that I was going to be able to stay in country music, and that I was going to be able to mean something and do something that mattered. I didn't know what. And I was grateful for that. I had a lot of gratitude. I was confused and I was scared, but I wasn't. It wasn't. There's a difference between scared and fear. It wasn't fearful. I was just a natural scared, and I didn't know what was going to happen. The fear of the unknown. And at the time, when I came out, I was working with GLAD and HRC, all these wonderful organizations. And my manager today was the vice president of GLAD for many years, and he retired from that. And I said, "Hey, what do you know about music? I know you love music because you know every song I've ever sung."
Retired.
Yeah,
I feel old.
And he said, "I don't know anything about it." I said, "Well, how did you feel about a trial run? Just, I just came out. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do next." And we created the Concert for Love and Acceptance because there was a need. If you have a need, fill it.
Yeah.
There was not a safe place for these artists to come perform and be themselves and talk about anything you wanted to talk about. Have a red carpet for them and have their families come and friends and just be authentic. There wasn't anything like that, and we created that. It was at the where was our first concert? At the we created that at the City Winery, and they said yes immediately. We went in for a meeting. They're like, yeah, we want to do that. We want to do that, and a little bitty grain of confidence started growing there, and with confidence came reassurance that we were going to be able to do this. And then as it started building, calling artists like, who the heck am I? I want affirming straight artists on the show. I want to showcase all of the out or want to be out LGBTQ artists. There was no auditions, nothing like that. We just needed to know that you had a heart for it and you wanted to sing. And we had 21 artists on our first show, and we knew this was going to be a big deal, and nobody left. It was incredible. And at the end of it, people were crying, people were standing up, they were having church in there. And I looked around the room and I was like, what have we done? What is happening right now? And the legacy will never end. We're just closing. There will be our last, after 10 years. Shelley Wright told me with her reading, writing, and rhythm that she did at the Walter, she goes, 10 years is a good pause point and figure out what you're going to do next. We've had 10 very successful years of this, and we reached our goals. I think we made a difference.
You did.
I think we
many differences.
So now we want to hand that torch to some of these young guns and see what they can do with it as we move on to maybe doing a few more bigger things that we can't talk about right now. Because I know these guys are going to take this and they're going to run with it, and we're going to keep the brand, but we're just going to hand it to some very passionate people.
Love it.
And you will see soon what we're going to do next. And so we're not getting rid of it. We're just, we built this beautiful house, and now we've sold it.
For those of you who don't know, the Concept for Love and Acceptance supports the Foundation for Love and Acceptance, which funds all kinds of things from
mental health to recovery to housing to food. We do a lot of things, and the foundation will remain with us and continue to grow. As a matter of fact, we're going to probably see it in the next 5 years bigger than that's ever been, because we need it, and it's see a need, fill it. We have to stay in that space.
Well, hell yeah. The statistics are always like so baffling when I look them up, because I don't know that I ever feel like they're not getting better. But the last time I looked, I think that just the overall for adults, where this is not adolescents, because adolescents you quadruple or more the statistic, but for adults we're God darn it, it's either 2 to 3 times we experience it 2 to 3 times the rate mental health issues and trauma over people outside the LGBTQ plus umbrella.
People are learning that trauma's not a bad word. People are learning that you can talk about your trauma and be proud of it, because it's going to lead you to healing. It gives you also a good excuse to go, this is why this was going on with me. We need healthy excuses. Excuses are not a bad thing. And that's another thing I've learned, okay, well, there was an excuse for this, but now I've found a way that this is helping me and not hurting me. Thank you, Oprah.
Indeed. Indeed. I love this question. What's a story or moment from the past 10 years, maybe a message from a fan or an artist who came out that reminded you this is why we do this?
I could do a book of those. I think probably the most heart-wrenching and heartfelt and moving moment for me was after I was so nervous to release God with a Gun. It was so personal, and the writers on that all had experienced something very similar. We wrote the song in an hour, and then we sat on the floor of my condo around the piano. We all cried, and it was just, we cried and celebrated survival and the miracle of life and how precious it is, and we forget about that sometimes. And then I got the song was released, and more than once I fell on my knees and cried holy, because if you've survived something, the subject of that song, if you've survived attempted suicide, and you live to tell it, you're changed forever. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that came from this, for those who didn't survive it, please say their names. Mm-hmm. Please. Don't ever forget them. Say their names. And one instance, this lady came and her husband had not survived it. She said, that helped me more than, she goes, because I stopped saying his name. And I lost it. I hugged her. I said, I'm going to say his name too. What's his name? And then another really moving, pivotal moment for me. I saw this man and young guy standing in the back of the room, and I noticed them, and I didn't think anything else about it. They were at the show, and but it's interesting that I saw them, and so they were in the meet and greet. I said, I saw you guys. I'm glad you're here. They were father and son, and the dad said, he said, this is my son. He said, he's not spoken a word about his suicide attempt, which happened 4 years ago. He said, he's here with us. He goes, your song made him sit down with us and tell us his story. He said, and now when he talks about it, he just says, let me play you this song. And this kid, he said, we drove 9 hours because he wanted to give you a hug. Ugly crier. But music is a powerful healer. And my purpose was blown through the roof after that. So
that's a really touching story. I appreciate you sharing that, because that's a huge impact.
I'm so happy to have tears, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, in those moments, I stood strong. God helped me stay strong, and I was able to hug that kid and go, so proud of you. I thank God for this song. I said, I bet you know every word. I said, sometimes I forget them. And he goes, no, you don't. I said, no, I don't forget, not that song. Anyway, and but his dad said, thank you. He goes, it's what he wanted to do. I said, come back anytime, man. And I'll never forget his face. It was personal. And I looked at that dad and I said, you, my friend, are an incredible father. Yeah. Incredible father. So he was, I am now. It's like, wow. So, okay, I'm done.
No, you're not. You helped open, listen, wait, we're almost done. You helped open the door.
Look at all these tissues, y'all. That's amazing.
You helped open the door. But now a new wave of queer country artists are walking through it. What do you want to make sure they know as they rise? And what do you want the industry to remember as it changes?
Don't for a second settle for anything other than who you are, and write the truth, be the truth, entertain. and shine, because that's the truth is the only thing that works. And I don't care if you're dancing around on your tippy toes, if you're just got this song that you're singing to God, just be yourself. Let people have it. Give them authenticity. Don't be afraid of that.
Yeah.
And second part of that question was,
what do you want the industry to remember as it changes?
that you can hurt people if you don't listen and you don't give them a chance. You could put out one of the brightest lights with your stupidity, or you could launch the greatest gift of all with your love and your tolerance, and no tolerance. I don't like that word anymore. With your confidence in that person, in that artist, because they're no different than the Carrie Underwood or the Brad Paisley that you signed, 5 years ago. They're probably even better.
Yep.
Amen.
Amen. Last question. When people think about your legacy 30 years from now, beyond the songs, what do you hope they say you stood for?
It's a great album title, Beyond the Song. 2%. What I hope.
Ty's, okay, we just had a negotiation. Ty's manager said 1%. I said 10. All right.
Beyond the song, beyond the music, there lived a man, and there lived a man that traveled a pretty incredible journey that he had no idea he was going to take. Take a look at that journey with the music, outside of the music, and take what you need from it and leave the rest for somebody else.
Amen.
Amen.
I love you, Ty.
Love you too. Bye, y'all. I'm going to church. I'm going to real church now. And my mama's.
With that, thank you, Ty. As always,
I love you, man.
This is an honor. And I will remind each and every one of you that it's never too late to start loving yourself, and you're always only one decision away from a completely different life.
This podcast is brought to you by Promises Behavioral Health. If you or a loved one are struggling with trauma, addiction, or mental health, we are ready to answer your questions and help you take that next step. Call our admissions center at 888-648-4098 or visit us online at www.promises.com. Our team is ready and waiting to answer the call for help.